Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Troy Shuker, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dale West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nodrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. In spite of me giving a shout out pretty much every day to my patrons, I just want to give an extra shout out to all of them, as it literally keeps this show running month after month after month. So if you did want to become a Patreon, there is a link in the info box below this video. But another massive shout out to all of you who support me on Patreon. So with that, I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Care a little more if, a guy that's in Flat Earth and been on your show was fighting for a title? Would you be a little more interested in it?
Yeah, I mean, from a point of view that it's like, I know that person is, but no more than anybody else, I don't think.
You're just not into sports, huh?
No, not especially. I'll get involved if someone takes me along to a football match or something.
I listened back to you and Arwen yesterday doing the Star Wars. It was really good, though. That was hysterical. With the math. What did you say? With
Search your math. You know it's true. Very appropriate. Search your math. The globe is a flat earth derivation. There's no other way of putting it. Do we get a hello from 10th already?
No, I was uploading a picture of a book that came in Master B. But yes, hello.
Hey, Ted.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning.
Is it another elevation angle or a celestial book?
It's definitely a celestial book. You see it, Nathan?
Heavy mathematics. Oh, heavenly mathematics.
Whoa, that's what kind of title is that?
It's the kind of title you need when you're going to make something up.
I like the illustration too.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to get into all of it. So obviously the haversine, and it all started with flat earth angle measurements to Polaris, and I'm sure it's going to get into the arc minutes and everything else. That tripped them up last night. They were all in the chat after Flatzoid released that. Like the trolls they are, they hang around upside down in some cave until, Flat Earth's channel somewhere put out a video. Let's go. Let's troll. They all come out. It's amazing.
So is there anything good in this?
Well, I just got it yesterday. I've been reading portions of it online. Well, I mean, what I'm going to find out, I have to get their books. I have to read what they say they arrived to it, who they give credit to, what year it was given credit to. Like, for example, the UK and America wasn't until 1952 that they both agreed how far of a distance conversion they should agree on with a nautical mile. When it's 1 minute or 1 degree. Always you take 60 minutes to make 1 degree. So then what were they doing before? If they didn't agree until then that the arc minute of an American sailor differ from an arc minute of a UK sailor because it has to convert to a statute mile of 69. So why did it take so long? Isn't that pretty simple?
Well, why? Why did it take so long?
Well, I'm going to find out, but basically, this is my opinion before finding out. It's like Brian said, and as we've seen, it's a circle, and it's the sexagesimal system that the Babylonians had, and they decided to give a circle 360 degrees, and then you got 360 divided, and then you get the total number of 21,600 minutes. Okay, so then how do you make that circle a globe? Well, you got to assign distance to it. Now, what kind of distance did they have before all this? They had the Roman statute mile, the certain paces that a Roman would walk would be considered a mile. Now, prior to that, they had other things, but they always seem to say the statute mile came from a military. When the Romans were marching, they want to know what distance their soldiers would get to each day. So they have distances on the terrestrial, the Earth part, pretty nailed down. Now all they got to do is match a minute of arc to it. So 60 miles to a degree. If the Romans said the statute mile was something else, that would be something else, because all it is a reference to a minute of arc. So a minute of arc is going to match exactly over land with the Roman mile. And then when you go to sea, it's got to do the same thing, right? So, but we're going to call them nautical miles there. So the whole history is what I'm uncovering.
You didn't answer my question, but it sounds like you don't know as yet.
I told you my opinion is they figured out distances on land. They assigned it with the arc minute to say that 60 nautical miles equals that same distance on land. Well, as Flatzoid shared and as Brian's logic has shared, you can make it convert to anything, but it's always going to be 60 because there's 60 seconds in a minute and 60 minutes in an hour. That never changes, no matter what size the ball is.
I see. Or don't, as the case may be.
Well, obviously, they see the circuit of the sun crossing the equinox twice, and then it's got its northern Cancer, Tropic of Cancer, southern Capricorn, and it just does this in a whole year's time. The moon does it in a month. Sun does it in a year. Everything's got to match. Flat Earth angle measurements to Polaris.
Can I change the subject slightly?
Yeah, I'm done.
In about maybe a month, might take longer, Paul's computer that he's paid for and had ordered and is going to be built shortly will hopefully arrive, and obviously I'll have a new computer. But prior to that being needed, this computer was, and for someone else still is, a very good computer. Now, over the years, I've upgraded almost everything, which means that I've subsequently got a spare of almost everything. That means I've got a spare computer, a spare monitor, a spare wireless keyboard, and a spare mic, and a spare camera, like webcam. Well, with those components, you've got essentially a complete streaming setup, which I want to give to somebody that's a fledgling streamer, shall we say. So I want to kind of put the feelers out at this stage. Or if anybody in our internal circle that we know says, no, I do need a computer, then I want to give it to somebody. As opposed to sell it. So a couple of bits in bobs that aren't necessarily required for a first-time streamer, I might rip out just because they cost a small fortune and sell them to cover other bits that I've spent money on since. But the bread and butter of the computer is going to be given back to my computer guy, and he's going to virginalize it. He's going to turn it back to new, and then with that, the monitor, the camera, the keyboard, and the mic, a Yeti, I can just go, here you go, this is a complete streaming setup. Set it up and go forth on OBS and make good material. So I just need to put the feelers out to find out who I can give it to. So as I don't necessarily keep up to date with flat earth in YouTube terms, like Flatzoid, I need somebody like that. Obviously in Britain, so you guys are not going to be able to help in that regard, but you know what I mean. Put the feelers out.
Can I suggest something?
What a job.
Do you have enough? What if something happens to your new one? Do you have something to go to? Should you not consider redundancy?
No, I don't think so. I think I'll just have to accept that if the new computer has a few teething problems, that'll just have to be how it is. You know, if that. I don't want to have redundancy. I don't have enough space for redundancy. So, as much as I'd like to have a spare computer sat in the cupboard in case this one breaks, no, I just physically don't have the space to do that in a 2-bedroom apartment. So no, I must give it away.
That's a good thing you're doing now. Somebody can use that. That's a very good thing.
Yeah, if that's the case, obviously.
Oh yeah, in short, if you know somebody who needs a streaming setup, let me know.
Well, I'm in the States, so maybe someone in the UK, maybe.
Absolutely, but I'm putting it out more for the audience than you specifically, 10th.
No, I know. I'm just restating it to clarify what region is the best.
Anywhere on my island.
There you go. So Ruhiv came on the chat and the back and forth on Flatzoid's video last night on the nautical mile. And I left off where John left off with him. Let's see if I can find it here. I mean, these people, what do? Just sit around the monitor waiting for something? They're just trolls. And people are these people.
I don't know. The question of their motivation is always the first thing you address, though, eh?
No, I'm just trying to figure out. Like, I know when I'm in front of a computer or when I got my smartphone and what channels I'm subscribed to. Now, obviously, I get a notification. I look and see what someone did, and if I'm busy working, it's going to be later. If it's at the time where I could look at it, I'll do it then. Sometimes I have good intentions and never see it because I totally forget. I got too many things going on. And yet, how many? So if I was going to fight the flat Earth, no pun intended, I'd probably subscribe to all the top flat Earth channels, and every time something came out, I would want to jump in comment section and say something if I was going to be a sworn enemy of the flat Earth. So I'm just thinking, what would I do if that was my calling in life, to fight anyone who wants to suggest that Earth could be something other than what they told us? And why would I do it? I don't know why I would do it, because I'm not that guy. But I know what I would do if I was going to do it. And that would be subscribe to all the flat Earth channels. And then every time something came up, be Johnny on the spot and put some comments out and troll. So that much I know they do because I see it. And I'm saying, what a life.
You've got to take it at face value. With a name like Fight the Flat Earth, that's a fight against a reification, isn't it? Because flat Earth isn't something you can fight. Yeah? If you want to, on the opponent's side, consider it a religious belief, it's not. It's just the way of things. But if you want to view it that way, can you fight a religious belief? No. Can you fight the people who have that religious belief? You could, if you wanted to, But that isn't what his title suggests, is it? He wants to fight the flat Earth, doesn't he? That to me is very telling.
No, good point. Like you said, deep inside, why they do it could be many things and hard to figure out, but their functions, their strategy, that's easy to see when they do it. Like if Brian's logic posts something, boom, like ants to sugar.
Well, that should tell you right there.
Well, it is telling me right there. That's my whole point. It's like these are professional trolls.
Or part of our community, like I was explaining to Neil yesterday.
No.
Yeah.
What did chocolate say? They're in pain.
No, they're
No,
our
no.
community. Really be nurturing these people.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they're our community. I remember. Yes, you're absolutely right. But they're in pain.
So what should you offer then? Maybe a mild degree of empathy for their pain?
No, put salt on the wounds. It'll heal eventually. It'll do them good. See, that salt is what we keep doing every day, bringing out the truth. Bringing out the
salt,
truth.
yeah.
It's
yeah,
salt.
I've got plenty of that to offer them.
Yeah. So eventually, it burns in the beginning. But like you said, why do they always say salt? Because salt is a healer. Eventually, they'll be healed.
So I just found the comment. So Ruhif jumps in and goes, still waiting for a debate, champ. He's got 3 chicken heads there. And I responded, debate what? There is no debate. Refracted curvature stopped you cold with the requirements for an elevation angle. Destroys your globe model. And just in case you forgot, you're missing R values, so no Earth curvature from any height. Just a zombie troll. And then it just kept going for a little while. But
that's a lot of salt, then.
Well, he's just trying to egg me on to debate him when he's already lost to refracted curvature. Refracted curvature conceded everything. Says, yeah, but now how'd you get that? Oh, I had to use a tangent plane. But why aren't you using your Earth curvature surface? Well, angles don't work from a curvature surface, so I have to use a flat Earth and use the celestial sphere model, which says the Earth is at the center and everything is spinning around a motionless Earth. That sounds like a flat Earth model to me. So why are you using a flat Earth model to prove a globe?
Yeah, that's a lot of salt.
That's stupidity. I mean, he's already admitted to all this, so what's the debate about? There is no debate.
Yeah.
Well, you can tell, listen, we have flat Earth debate every day, daily.
He knows that. I just told you they're trolls. He ain't coming here.
It's a gaming term, by the way, salty. Do you know what it means?
Don't tell me that name that you always say.
It's that filthy thing I always say to them when I'm winning. Yeah. That's a gamer term. So, taste my salty. And then after they've tasted your salty, you know what? Tell them you're salty there, bit salty. Still got that taste of salt in your mouth.
Yeah, but salty peanuts is. I bought some yesterday.
Have a different mind picture in my mind when I hear salt.
Yeah, it's a game, but when a gamer says you're salty, that's a reference to having just been shot in the face and teabagged by your opponent.
No, I get it. I get how many different ways a thing could be seen and described as.
Hey, Brian.
Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, Nate. Hey, everyone.
Hey, Brian.
I was just explaining to the guys what salty meant.
Yeah, salty means not happy. Not happy at all. That's what salty means.
Not according to Nathan.
No, that absolutely is what it means. If you've just been shot in the face and teabagged by a gamer opponent, then you're going to be salty.
Well, when it loses in real salt, when it loses a saber, it's thrown on the road and grounded up to be walked upon. It's a filler. Brian, did you see Flatzoid's video last night?
God, don't commend him on his videos that he's just put out.
Well, I was going to tie it back to him.
Oh, okay. My bad.
I actually know I'm going to watch it today. I actually meant to watch it last night, but I ended up watching the thing with my friend, so I couldn't watch it.
Yeah.
But I'm going to watch it because I was waiting for it to come out, and then my friend was there and we put on something to watch, so I started watching that.
Yeah. Lots of comments followed after. But I wanted to tie it to Brian because Brian first came out with similar statements as Flatzoid. And Brian also has a minimum of 2 videos on the haversine formula prior to refracted curvature even mentioning it. So I just want to give credit to Brian.
Yeah, Brian knows his stuff. But Flatzoid's definitely getting better. I really enjoy his videos too. And I like the fact that he summarises the most concise globe-killing and flat Earth proving point right at the end of his video before he rounds out. Very much appreciate that, Flatzoid, if you're listening. But also, yeah, kudos, Brian. You're on fire again.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, everyone. My haversine videos, I was more pointing at the use of it by Bob, the Science Guy, and others. I wasn't even that knowledgeable on the haversine. I knew what it was for, but I wasn't that knowledgeable on it. But to say that, I called it a chord line. That's basically what I called it at one point, as a way of describing it. So my videos on it, they do make a point, but they're not specific about the haversine itself. But I might make another video if necessary. But I take it that haversine is part of Flatzoid's video?
No, not necessarily. But you did connect it, and then you said you used the chord line in relationship to circle of equal altitude. The arc would be ignored, and you'd have to go like a gopher through the earth, and your distances would be different from the chord versus the arc when it was traveled upon. Whereas the haversine takes 2 points on the sphere and connects them. And so that would mean the arc part, not the chord part. And so that's a mathematical move on their part. When the angle comes off the plane, equatorial plane, and hits the inner wall of a concave celestial sphere, which is imaginary, where the stars are, it's reprojected down, and that's where it makes the spherical triangle, the PZX, and that's how they get their points to match. And so John, refractive curvature, nailed it on the precise usage, whereas what you did was brought the name up first, is what I'm saying. And then you tied it to circle of equal altitude and how a circle is two-dimensional, a radius can't bend, and so that would mean a chord. So you used it to prove something else, and John is using it and why they needed it to make a sphere the arc surface.
Yeah, well, I did say in my second video on it, because my first video wasn't as specific. It was more attacking the use of it and how it was just an equation. But my second video, I did state clearly that it was a globe correction for a globe problem. And that's what it is.
It is. I mean, that's a good summary, because they need a circle of equal altitude on the globe, and the haversine gives it to them, but that's not reality.
Yeah. I remember stating, I think in my video, that the second video, and maybe the first and second actually, that the most important part of the haversine was the R value, something that doesn't exist in reality as a measurement. So there's no point claiming the haversine formula when the most important part of it is the R. You know, if we could do the same thing, you could do the haversine formula without the R and get the correct distance.
No, you're going to need an R for.
You have to change where the origin of the 2 points are, the origin of the 2 points. Because the origin of 2 points are from the center of a globe. Well, technically, they're from the base of a protractor. That's what they are.
Right.
It's a protractor. It's actually a correction, a mathematical correction for the use of a protractor. Kind of in a way, to say it's the biggest begging the question fallacy ever. That's what the haversine formula is. That's probably the best way to describe it.
The best thing you said in that whole thing is it's not there when you don't have R.
Exactly, it can't be. If you don't have R, the haversine doesn't mean anything, and they don't have R.
No, R destroys everything about the heliocentric model.
So that's a bunch of nonsense then to haversine. We don't have no R.
No, but you can. It only exists in the maths. That's how you got to think.
They'll state it'll give you a correct distance, but a correct distance according to what? A correct distance according to what? According to a north to south, because it's all based on circle routes, what they call great circle routes. So it's a great distance according to what? As part of a longitude line? Is that distance changed when that distance is straightened out? Does that change the distance? No. So what it really was a straw man being used by the likes of Bob the Science Guy, because what they were doing was using the universal transverse Mercator and then using the haversine to change the distance that would be on the universal transverse Mercator and saying, see, this is the correct distance. So the flat Earth distance, calling the universal transverse Mercator the flat Earth distance. The flat Earth can't get the correct distance. You need the globe to get the correct distance. And that's what I was attacking initially, because that's what he was doing. He was showing north to south. I think it was from Chicago to Phoenix, and the correct distance between Chicago and Phoenix is got via the haversine once you take the distance off of the universal transverse Mercator or something like that. And I was like, that doesn't, who said that this distance on the universal transverse Mercator was, whoever claimed that as a flat Earth distance? Nobody ever claimed that. So we're just building a straw man and then using this haversine as a way to kind of correct the problem. But what he did do is he went off after that and he did east to west in Australia using the haversine, right? Which is not really the way the haversine works, because it's not part of a great circle route.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, how dare you, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Arwin, trying to get in during my introduction, 10th Man, Adam Meakin, Neil, who else? Miss Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello.
Good morning.
Buonasera. Hey, good morning.
Good morning, one and all. Good to have you all. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve or the curve of the Earth? Let's see some enthusiasm.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
I had a yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Adam.
Okay. Can I ask you to go to Master B?
No.
I said I'd give up, right? But if I could just quickly share these. So
Yeah, go
it
ahead.
is full confirmation. Okay, so first slide, obviously they've attacked me. I spelt the word lose incorrectly. So a number of repetitive tweets pointing out that I'd spelt the word lose wrong. So I've said so funny when all that keeps your worldview together is correcting a spelling mistake. Reply from Piper Australis. When your flat earth friends, were your flat earth friends supportive when you told them you had finally discovered refraction? I said, nah, they just pissed themselves laughing at you guys thinking the horizon is earth curve. Response, well, it is. It actually is. So I've had to respond to this. Geordie G guy says, you truly are the gift that keeps on giving. His response. Third slide. Well, I'm just trying to educate you, but that is kind of impossible if you decide to be an ignoramus. Again, the visible horizon is caused by Earth curvature. When you look at the horizon, you are looking at Earth curving down in relation to. Now, please laugh a little more. So I have. Stop it. Please, my sides are hurting. Final slide. Okay, here we go again. When you look at the horizon, you are looking at Earth curvature. I've given a general clown thumbs up there. So this seems to be their purveying worldview. Then they've doubled down on. And yeah, Earth curve is the horizon.
Meanwhile, we only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, Earth, curve, calculator, marked with an X and labelled horizon, is geometric, with a straight line tangent to it, in order to derive R and claim it's a physical hill blocking your view at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. And if the horizon was Earth curve at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, then you could never see beyond that physical limitation at that height, at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, which is where the physical obstruction, formerly known as Earth curve, resides. Now, in the Black Swan, we can demonstrate that the horizon is beyond those limitations of a physical hill getting in your way at a particular distance. The Black Swan shows the horizon beyond its geometric Earth curve claimed limitations. Therefore, the horizon is not Earth curve.
They just ignore the Black Swan, Adam?
I don't think they can cope with the Black Swan yet, mate. I've just been firming up the confirmation in their worldview that it is. And after such positive affirmation that it is, how do you then cope with the Black Swan? Other than go, refraction. I don't know how else they're going to deal with it. Or if they even can.
Well, let's just cover that.
Well,
Hold on, let's just cover that. So if you bark refraction in response to what I just said in regards to if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles and every distance to that physical horizon can be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance to the horizon, as on screen, marked with an X with a massive void sticker on it, is beyond those geometric limitations with a straight line tangent to that hill that blocks your view, according to Earth curve claims, then it's not Earth curve. Response, refraction. Well, then you haven't got a straight line to a physical hill anymore. Then the horizon isn't blocking boats and buildings at a set distance calculable in the maths on screen with a big void on it, because you have a bent line moving the horizon with the weather. How can you then claim that you've got a physical obstruction with a certain feet and inches value at the hill getting in the way called Earth curve if the hill itself is refracted beyond the things it's supposed to block? It's absurd. Further to that, the mathematics itself requires a tangent point to derive the R value in the first instance. If you haven't got a tangent, you haven't got geometry. And if you're bending that straight line, then you're bending the geometry. an impossibility when you require a tangent to do the geometry, a straight line to Earth curve. You haven't got it anymore. Hence the sticky wicket that the current competitors with our claims in regards to the fact you need a flat plane to do celestial navigation will talk about their dip angle correction to the physical geometric Earth curve horizon with a straight line to correct an angle, not a bent one. Further to that, you all claim that the light comes in from these lights in the sky parallel. Is that bent? You dicks don't understand how your own arguments contradict themselves and undo the very model that you're claiming. If the line is bent like on screen now, then you haven't got a hill in the way with a straight line to claim it.
Well, it's even worse than that. It's actually a lot worse. The fact that they claim 7/6R, the fact that they claim, I don't know who that was, the fact that they claim 7/6R, right? And they claim it as a constant. This is not something that happens now and again. 7/6R is a mathematical constant within their model. So you are never ever seeing the geometric globe. You're only ever seeing a 7/6R representation of the globe. And what that means is, number one, 60 nautical miles per degree, right, gives you 80 statute miles and not 69. 80.5 statute miles and not 69. That's number one. Number two, it means that all the observations to Polaris, all the elevation angles to Polaris, even though they can't get elevation angles from a curved baseline, the point is that their whole model is based on their R value, and their R value is based on all the elevation angles to Polaris, right? All the horizontal elevation angles to Polaris. That's where the R value comes from. That's what it's derived from between the GP of Polaris and the equator line. That means if they're claiming a refracted horizon and it's refracted constantly, not like today it is and tomorrow it's not. No, it's always a refracted position. That means that there is no R value, there is no globe, and there is no heliocentric model. If they're getting their elevation angles to Polaris from a refracted horizon, that means orthographically, which is what their maths, all their maths are orthographic, but orthographically then, the size of their globe will not match, mathematically will not match Polaris, even with Polaris having parallel light rays, being a huge massive star in our model, having parallel light rays, it will not match that, and it will not match the sun in shadows. So claiming 7/6R absolutely destroys all the geometry of the globe. Every bit of geometry connected to the sphere out and all parts of heliocentrism after that is destroyed by the claim of 7/6R.
Welcome
it
to
destroys the very R value. Go on,
welcome to the cutting edge of flat Earth. If you're new here, this is it. This is as sharp as it gets. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Hold on. Did that guy say that he was trying to educate Adam, or did Adam say he was trying to educate him?
No, he said he was trying to educate Adam about how the horizon's Earth curve, the commonly held conception of the Western world. He thought he would be educating Adam, even though everybody was taught that from basically birth.
Well, therein lies the problem. The wrong person is trying to educate.
Yeah, but you've got to give them credit, the plucky little souls.
Well, they suffer from the same problem that Neil suffers from, no offence, Neil. They think that if they can convert Adam and convince Adam of their worldview, as opposed to the physical evidence that they could possibly provide, then they'll have a better grounding in their own belief. Well, sometimes when you want to convert others into the idea of flat Earth or ask how the progress is going, Neil, the same thing applies to you. You're under the misapprehension that converting others to your worldview is somehow going to help the grounding that you're standing on. It doesn't.
I think it's a beautiful thing Adam did with this guy. He admits that the horizon is Earth curvature. One day it's 10 miles out. The next day it's 32 miles out. Another day it's 5 miles out. That's the kind of wobbly Earth that they want.
Well, the kind of Earth that they need to get an R value from is the one on screen with a straight line to a physical tangent point marked at C with a 90-degree angle to give them the R value by way of the triangle that it forms from the top of the height of the mountain that was measured with a flat plane. So the height, A, 2, is it B? Yes. A to B. That height was acquired by measuring elevation angles to the mountain from a flat plane, parallel with the line at the top of the screen. So that line was what gave him the height. From the point he's got the height, he can go up to A and measure C, after then assuming that the ground is curving away when he just measured it flat to get the height. Further to that, he must have a straight line to C to get R. So if you bend this line, refraction! Really, how are you getting R? This is how it's done. It's how Al-Biruni is claimed to measure R. Not derive or calculate, measure R. Notice how this diagram of the claim to be measurement of R is done with Al-Biruni seeing the side of his own head at A. Because we're not standing at this mountain looking down at a horizon. We're in, as Brian described, an orthographic view, looking at the side of our own head and the target, the horizon in this example, with the horizon not really looking very much like a horizon, looking like an orthographic representation of a single point, as opposed to a line running horizontally across your view, which is what would have been presented to Al-Biruni if he was real and was at the top of this mountain after measuring the mountain flat to go up it and then assume that the measurement he just took is wrong because he's going to curve the ground he just measured as flat, to have a straight line to the horizon called Earth curve. That would be this hill getting in the way, according to his now assumption that violated his first measurement. So if you're going to assume that you can get an R value to assume Earth has a curvature after measuring it flat, then you're going to need a straight line to that horizon, not a bent one. Because if you do, you mess up your entire geometry, globe-believing idiots. Further to that, to have this idea and notion of sphericity means that you've utilised the flat plane that Al-Biruni used to measure the height of the mountain, but to measure the stars. And that would make this curve the curve of the protractor you measured it from, with the angle coming from the R point, the centre of the protractor, not a globe Earth with a mountain perched on top of it, because your measurement will be coming from the centre of it when you measure the stars, because you need angles. And that's where the globe's been derived from. A flat plane with a sphere of the heavens. Not a globe, but a flat plane. And it was mathematically required to give you a globe.
Nathan, can you go to Master B? I got a newer orthographic funny picture for you to look at.
The one with the submarine?
No.
The boat,
It's not
rather.
submarine. Yeah.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Chocolate.
Hey, Chocolate.
That was a lot of salt, and that is the cutting edge. Well done.
What I find funny about that last Al-Biruni clip is that they put a curve at the base of the mountain. Like, they're putting the mountain onto a curve, giving the mountain a curved base. Like they're already pre-assuming that there's a curved baseline underneath the mountain. And there's no 7/6R in that diagram.
There can't be. It wouldn't be a triangle. He can't measure a triangle. He can't derive R if he's got a bent line to the horizon. And they have. It's 7/6. Oh, what's that? R? Where did that come from? Oh, Al-Biruni, when he measured it straight. So you're bending the line that was measured straight to give you the R, to give you the value to bend it with. It's a paradox. It's nonsensical. Right, I got your black and white and highlighted.
R doesn't seem very useful if immediately from the jump you're putting it into another equation and then changing it. That's a little weird.
Well, Abstruse went through this yesterday. If you go back to yesterday's show, he detailed it quite succinctly in terms of how they're just expanding. Refraction in their terms might have the word refraction in it, but actual terrestrial refraction is just a way of inflating the size of the ball. That's all it really does.
Yeah, that's why refraction is such a beautiful concession on their part, not even realizing it. Because as soon as you say 7/6R, you're not talking about refraction. Now you're not talking about optics or perspective. You're just changing the ground. Why are you doing that? How is you changing the ground or the size of the ground, proving that the ground was the size that you said it was? It's insanity.
Right. Hello, John. Let's just say hello to John and then we'll go to 10th. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, how curved can a line be to get an angle from it?
It can't be at all, ever. It won't form an angle if it's curved. That's an impossibility. Right, let's get to this slide because it's been up for a while.
Yeah, as you can see here, and I owned a boat, and I went on the Pacific Ocean many times. I never saw what they're trying to show me here, because I saw boats coming at me, going sideways to me in every direction. But you can see there's a person with a sextant on top of the bridge there, and it's showing an orthographic view of him taking an angle measurement of a star, and I'm watching him doing it. And see that curvature of the ball with the ocean there? That is never seen. That never happens. Everything below that A line doesn't happen. You never see this. This is so funny to me because, it's always forward and the globe is falling away from you. But if someone's watching you do it, it's also right to left. And now they show right to left, the globe falling away. Well, has anyone seen this before? In reality, I mean.
Well, you can't. You can't. The measurement's being taken again in orthographic view. So we're seeing the boat that you're on taking the measurement from. That's not going to happen. This is not a view of. This is not a view of our world. This is not a view that you get from the boat. And you looking at the boat with a guy with a set of binoculars on isn't ever going to yield this result, because this isn't a possibility to see. It's not a view that you can get. If you're on the boat, you look at the horizon, and the horizon presents itself, as the name implies, it's derived from the word, horizontally in your field of view. What you don't see is your own boat, your own head, the horizon as a single point on your right-hand side. None of this is stupid.
But Nathan, it's in the book about navigation, so it must be true.
So what, does the book also say, get out in a dinghy, get sufficiently far enough away from your boat that you can see the curve of the earth from left to right, and then look at the guy on the boat and mentally draw a line out from his position, like it's your position, to the curve of the earth that's falling away, with the giant hill that falls away from the boat. It's absolutely absurd.
What, that doesn't check out?
No chocolate.
Yeah, checked out.
Right, can we move on? Any evidence of axial rotation? It didn't get covered. Any evidence we spin? There's a claim Earth's spinning. There's a claim we're moving 1,000 miles an hour at the edge of the Earth on the equator.
Well, we're moving?
1,000 miles an hour if you're on the equator. So they claim. There's no evidence for this, though, as far as I'm concerned. There's a claim that there's Coriolis effect as the evidence, but that doesn't pad out.
How are you going to qualify a Coriolis effect without a radius value?
Pan out. My bad. Sorry, what did you say? I was more concerned with correcting my incorrect use of pad versus pan. What did you say, John?
I said, how can you qualify Coriolis without a radius value?
You can't. You've got to have an axis to give you the radius, to give you the rotation rate in radians. Radians? Radius? No? You're going to need that R value if you're going to claim that we've got an axis to rotate about.
I'm still trying to figure out how we could be moving if I'm standing still.
Because you got a cool story that tells you that you're moving, and you're just supposed to accept that and believe it.
Wait, my teacher...
And the only validation they can give you is to look at other things that are moving and tell you that that's not actually what's happening. It's actually you.
No, my teacher did show me in school when I said, how can I be moving if I'm standing still? If we're spinning, wouldn't we fly off? She took a bucket of water and whirled it around her head real fast and no water came out. And said, because of gravity.
Neil, it's the same trick that they're doing with the picture that we just showed.
Hold on, just one sec. So, your teacher was a concaver?
Okay, Earth,
that
baby.
way, right?
Well, that's what she showed you. She showed you a concave Earth demonstration, did she not?
She showed you the bucket model.
I said, but the water's on the inside, and the water on Earth, you're telling me is on the outside. And get to the back of the class, you disruptor.
Didn't like you challenging a concave worldview, it seems.
Yeah, we're too hung up on details, man.
That's what it is.
But
when you
even her worldview that was concave with the bucket and you in the inside of it, you know, realistically, she's trying to portray a concave Earth with you on the inside of it, which also is derived from the haversine formula. Both concave and globe Earth models are essentially cut from the same rock. Identical, in fact. They're both conversions from a flat Earth. They're both conversions from the celestial sphere over a flat plane model. That's where they've come from. So if you're a concaver and believe that, you know, you've got you on the inside of a concave surface looking in at the stars at the centre, then your models come from a flat Earth also. Same as both.
Did you say they were cut from the same rock?
Yeah, the concave model and
Are those
globe
rocks
Earth model have
cousins?
come from the same exact conversion. The haversine formula, when you look at the celestial sphere and it's got the sphere as a large circle or large sphere on the outside, and then inside that you've got a smaller globe Earth, and then inside that you've got a flat Earth with you taking the angle from the centre. Well, it doesn't matter if you project it up to the inside and then say that you're standing on the inside looking back down at the place you just measured the angle from, or project it to the outside. Either way, they both come from the same exact origin.
Neil, when you brought up the bucket question and she sent you to the back of the class, did you notice if her face turned pale?
Boom. Shout out to Theo Megawarty, who says terror, Earth, refracted, broken, TR equals broken Earth. Is that so? Thank you very much for the super chat.
Yeah, I was just asking that question, Nathan, because I was wondering if the rocks were cousins. They're cut from the same rock.
We've covered that story 2 or 3 times.
High.
We've covered the globe Earth rocks as people, or our origin story, several times in the last month. Do we really want to do that again? Maybe we'll ask the chat. Do you want to hear the story? Do we want a Jackanory? You in the chat, you decide. Type 1 if you want Jackanory for Dr. Becky's. Was it Dr. Becky?
No, it wasn't. It was an
Dr. Michelle Fowler.
Michelle Thaler, my bad. So Michelle Thaler said that we are cousins with rocks. If anybody wants that story, type 1. If you're like, no, we've heard it too many times in the last month, type 2. So 1 if you want the story of rocks being our cousins and how that comes to be.
I want to know about my ancestors.
Well, we'll find out from the chat if they want a story time or not. We'll find out if they want Jackanory.
Real quick.
Go on.
Do you want the audio clip real quick? I could post it. We could actually hear her say it.
But it's level pegging 1s and 2s at the moment. I'm slightly 1s ahead. So, yeah, dig it out. Yeah, 1s are definitely ahead. Looks like we're getting Jackanory.
People who live in glass houses shouldn't throw their cousins.
Okay, so
That's a good one.
Yeah, and he was without sin throw his first cousin.
don't disparage the royal family like that. Outrageous. Okay, right. So the reason she's asserting that you've got our cousins being rocks is because the origin story for us in the heliocentric world is from the Big Bang. Well, you have a massive explosion with everything being thrown out, but then through gravitational accretion, everything starts to coalesce in various different pockets. You've got an uneven distribution of mass, which bends the time and space in this fourth dimensional region, and that causes gravitational accretion through way of bending geodesics in space-time, making the mass fall in upon itself and then coalesce. So gravitational accretion takes place. Now, if you've got a huge amount of gas that all coalesces, it may form a star if it becomes dense enough. Now, if that star's supermassive, there's a good chance that it will burn bright and fast and live fast and die young. And when it does so, it will implode upon itself, according to the heliocentric origin stories, and eventually form the elements of life in the heart of the dying star. So as it collapses in upon itself, it becomes heavier and heavier and heavier, and the fusion reactions become more and more complex as they form more and more complex elements, right down to gold and platinum, right before it explodes out, distributing these precious heavy metals and things that we absolutely require in our body to function out into the world. And then through the story of lightning in a swampy pond, we get life, and that life has come from the fact that we have this complex mix of these rocks and metals and elements and all the rest of it that have been formed in the hearts of dying stars. So that is why when you pick up a rock and toss it across to skim the ocean, just bear in mind that they are your cousins. And that story is true because they made it up themselves.
It's based on dwarven cosmology.
Dwarven?
Didn't you know that? There's even a scene in Lord of the Rings, the movie, about how some people thought that the dwarves were just sprouted out of the rock because they couldn't identify the females because they were also wearing beards, right? So it's kind of dwarven cosmology to think that you're distantly related from rocks.
The other way
So it's a
around.
bit of a stretch.
No,
The other way
let's
around
just
that
correct
one.
Darwin. No, it's the other way around. I used to think that when I was a kid, when I was watching Red Dwarf, until you figure out where the origins come from. You go to A Brief History of Time, and there's all of the narrative plucked straight from it in terms of what's happening in space according to pseudo-Ramonian for space-time, and all of the effects that they describe after observing lights in the sky, or the lack thereof, and giving them names, and then creating little stories around them. And from those stories, you can create narratives that are, you can suspend disbelief beyond the suspension of disbelief that is created in those narratives. So you've got a world of fantasy at your fingertips with certain lore already made for you. So it makes the story writing part a lot easier. So when you say, well, the dwarves were born out of the rocks, well, no, that shortcut is just cutting out a chunk of that story that Michelle Thaller's relying upon when she says our rocks are cousins. And she's done the same thing, hasn't she? She's just taken that shortcut, gone from A, which is we are in existence and have precious metals in our systems that are required, to D, which was, or start the other way around, from D, which is us with the rocks and metals, to A, which is where they, according to her, began, in the hearts of dying stars. Well, that shortcut without the in-between story that I gave is the same as dwarves being literally born out of rocks if you, in the story, just cut out the middle section and suddenly you have an interesting plot point that almost has a lore behind it in terms of the logic. And that's demonstrated by Michelle Thaller actually saying it. Not just a plot point. They got it from heliocentrism. They just cut out the in-between. They cut out the B and C of it. Next thing you know, you've got people born out of rocks, like we are claimed to be.
And it all came from the Vatican.
Yep. This is all a spin-off of some other bloody religion. No offence to all you Christians.
Correct. Well, they said Peter was the rock of the Roman Catholic Church, but they were wrong about that.
Hey, Adam,
Sorry, Brian. Yeah, if you want, Nathan, real quick, Brian, I'm sorry. Well, if you want, there are 2 short clips in Master B.
Much of the ancient stardust is sucked into the sun, never to be seen again. It's planets.
I actually think of myself as a very complicated rock. I am made of things like iron and copper and manganese. When you sit down on a mountainside and you're there with a rock, those are your cousins too.
She
That's
said
hysterical.
it.
There's no such
like
thing
that.
in my world as life, really. That we're very complicated rocks. You know, we're a chemical reaction that got complex enough to become conscious. There's no such thing in my world as life, really. That we're very complicated rocks.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
Should we let
Contextualized
that-
it perfectly. Good timing, Chocolate. Thank you.
Should we let that comment slide since we're rocks?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't pan out for the heliocentric model.
Oh, gosh.
I got that one, Nathan.
Boom. So, any evidence of axial rotation, is that's what this is all about?
Hang on.
Just ignore mine. Just ignore mine. I got that one,
But
Nathan.
Nathan's, yours is good, but Nathan's had that subtle undertone, and
Yeah.
you got it or you didn't, you know.
I'm just having fun. Don't worry about it.
I would like Adam to ask these bozos he's talking to online where their heliocentric model Big Bang originated. See what answers they get. Because I would say absolutely none of them are going to say George's Lemaitre in the Vatican.
I'm not going to ascribe this to the priest that actually came up with the stories. You've got to be joking. That sort of stuff is like garlic to a vampire. Or crucifix to a vampire, right? That's what that is. No, definitely not. No, they don't want to admit the origins. I mean, they always appeal to their maths, right? Maybe someone should be going back to Red's rhetoric with what we're currently going through. Hey, Reds! Yeah, about that utilisation of the R value you assumed. Yeah, we've been asking where you got it. Yeah, we found out. You got it from a flat Earth. Oh, wow, where's Refractive? He's all into the maths, isn't he? Yeah? Haversine formula. Yeah, what's that being derived from? Flat Earth. So you need a flat Earth for the angles. Maybe someone needs to get onto Refractive about the elevation angle argument and ask him the very straightforward question we ask here almost daily. How'd you get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? If Earth's a sphere with a curved Earth radius value and a curved Earth falling away from your feet at 8 inches per mile squared, how'd you get an elevation angle? Oh, you don't? You get it from a flat Earth like the people doing celestial navigation do? Yeah, we know. Earth's flat. It has to be flat. You can't get an angle if it isn't.
Could I ask?
If I could, Brian, I'd like to politely decline your request of trying to convince them that all of this is a Catholic Jesuit plot. I haven't got the time nor the inclination for that one, mate. It was hard enough getting a
Well, what about this, Adam? This is one I was thinking about earlier. What about asking them, can you get your correct latitude using the globe's geometric horizon and Polaris with a marine sextant at sea? See what they say.
That's just asking, but that's just asking them if they can get an elevation angle from a curved baseline, isn't it?
Well, no. The whole point of it is that if they say yes, you can, then you can point out no. You get your correct latitude from what they claim to be a refracted horizon, and then leave them at that. Because and say you can work out the rest, and just leave them off because they're going to be probably a year trying to work out what the hell that meant. What it means is that the globe doesn't exist. Because if your latitudes, if you look at every globe in every classroom, just show them a picture of a globe in a classroom globe or an antique globe. Show them a picture of the globe, all the latitude lines on it. But you're not using that surface to get your latitude. So how could you get your correct latitude with a refracted globe, a globe that's bigger than that globe? How could you get your correct latitude off of an horizon that's claimed to be part of a bigger globe? It all doesn't work.
They can't, but they couldn't get the angle in the first place. You've got to concede this, or I'm going to hold you to task, generally speaking.
No, I know they can't. No, but see, this is the thing, right? This is the thing. The whole point is, like, for this, I don't even need to ask them that. Because as soon as they admit that they get the correct latitude off a refracted horizon, or they try and state it's geometric, you can show them it's not geometric. It's not a geometric horizon. It's what you call to be a refracted horizon, and that's what you get your correct latitude off of. So you can't use the globe to get your correct latitude. Means there is no globe. All the globe's radius value comes from the same origin as the latitudes, which is Polaris and observations to Polaris, flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. If you can't use the globe's geometric horizon to get your correct latitude, it means the globe and heliocentrism does not exist.
Yeah, that was my segue last time to try to get the answer to the next housekeeping question. We're still on number 1. Just point that out. Oh, no, technically true, because this is elevation angle measurement to Polaris. We can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. We don't need to ask the question. But what about axial rotation? We did actually cover that too, didn't we? What about the R value? Any evidence of the R value?
Well,
I think we've smashed that.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying I think we've smashed that with what Brian's just said. And I love the 7/6 for trying to use the horizon. But I think we've smashed that as well in the first bit, the second bit, and the third, because all of these are independent methods of destroying R. As a side consequence, what Brian said, what we were talking about with regards to the horizon, any evidence of a physical geometric horizon, they're all destroying it, aren't they? So, no, put simply.
Any evidence?
Exactly, because, sorry, one second, Nathan. Just to add in a bit, because the audience may not, I don't know if all of the audience are actually getting this. You can use the reality C horizon, and you can take an angle to Polaris, right, and get your correct latitude using the reality C horizon from a boat at sea with a marine sextant, right? You will always get 69 statute miles for every 60 minutes of degree, which are 60 nautical miles. 1 degree will always give you 69 statute miles on the surface of Earth in reality, using the reality C horizon. For the globe, they need you to use the geometric horizon for 60 nautical miles per degree to work, and for their observations to Polaris to fit heliocentrism and fit the globe out, they need to use the geometric horizon of the globe.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah. Can I just drop something in? Just want to drop something in, Brian. I'm really sorry to break up your flow. Just want to ask Rufy, how's that geometric horizon working out for you, buddy? You carry on, Brian.
Yeah, they're using They're using what they claim is a 7/6R refracted. Well, it's more than 7/6R, because it's often infinite over 6R. They've claimed, and other things.
Yeah, Rufy claimed it once, didn't you, Rufy? Infinite over R refraction, right? Always refraction. How's that geometric horizon?
The point is that they are never working with the geometric surface of the globe they claim exists, which means that 60 nautical miles per degree will never ever work on our model and get them 69 statute miles. And their globe then consequently will never match the sky, never match the observations to the sky, never match anything to do with Polaris or latitudes. None of them can exist. Latitudes can't exist if we're on a globe and the horizon is refractive. Latitudes can't exist. You'll never get your correct latitude because you will never have a geometric baseline.
We tried to explain this to them.
Even if it's a curved baseline.
We tried to explain this to them in 2020. We tried to make it clear to them. You understand that by refracting the horizon, you destroy your globe claim. It's based on that geometry. It's based on the geometric horizon. And they just carried on for 2 straight years barking refraction at us, leaving people like Ruhif in a very tricky position when they want and need a geometric horizon and haven't got one anymore.
But exactly, and that's
even worse than that. It left people saying, "Look, there's a horizon at 1.2 miles away in the water, in the Black Swan," or asking us, "Why would you expect to see this horizon?"
But that's why I'm attacking the 7/6R, because I've had enough of hearing that it's refracted as a hand wave and then try and move away from it, because that's what they do.
I can add another quote. Nobody's claiming we'll see physical geometry. That was Planar Walk. Yeah? Nobody's claiming that we'll see a physical geometric horizon. That's Earth curve that they need. Planar Walk and AB Science. Both of them made the basically exact same statement, which is no one's claiming we'll see physical geometry, end quote. Planar Walk. AB Science in that regard. So we've got numpties from their own side. Tim Osman. Nobody claims the horizon is Earth curve, right? These numpties are telling you in a concise way what we were barked refraction for 2 straight years. They've summed it up. Nobody's claiming we'll see physical geometry. Right. Well, then your nautical mile measurements won't work anymore. Not that you could get the angle measurement to take them with, but ultimately speaking, those maths must match the geometry. And if you bend that line, you break the globe claim. They didn't get it 2 years ago. They won't get it now. They're dumb. You're dumb.
It's such a sick concession, right? Nobody expects to see physical geometry. Oh, okay. So what the hell's blocking those boats and buildings in the distance?
Not Earth curve.
Would that not be physical?
Not Earth curve.
That would be optical then. Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, they've only got one thing in their list. Earth curve is the only physical claim to be blocking anything ever in the distance. That's the only claim, because you can't have anything else in that claim. 7/6R refraction bends the light with respect to that horizon, because you're trying to prove it. It's at sea, back to Al-Biruni. Here he is claiming to be measuring the physical geometry of Earth. You can't bend that line. You haven't got any geometry to claim anymore. That's your Earth curve. Right, I'm just going to do a few shout-outs to some super chatters. So, shout-out, wow, there's a whole bunch of them. To Unisox Femu, Sasha, thank you very much indeed. It says, we can get elevation angle on a curved surface if elevation is made by complicated rocks. Where is radius even complicated rocks are confused? Yeah, indeed, Sasha. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Also, Chronicles of the Unconvinced says, how can you imagine playing chess with an anti-flat earther? You put them in checkmate, and they reply, you don't understand. Right, indeed. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Also, the price of Adam super chats and says, Globe-ers come out to play. Indeed. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. And also, Sensual Goat, who says, congratulations on reaching 24,000 subscribers. And shout out to Mick West. He tried his best. Thank you very much for the super chats, everybody. Really appreciate all of the support. And yeah, good. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, do so now, and hopefully we'll get to 25,000. That'd be wonderful. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Just before you move on, Nathan, I just want to say this would be a fantastic time for us to have Rumpus's 99% done refraction presentation. Sorry.
I don't think so. He's just a liar. His 99% refraction calculation included a physical geometric limitation to the Isle of Man in that calculation, something he later lied about on 3 separate occasions when put to the fact that he claimed he had a physical Earth curve blocking the Isle of Man, and how much refraction had brought the Isle of Man back from beyond that physical limitation he was calculating, and then lied about. What's he going to do? Which one's he going to claim? The one he lies about, it being a physical obstruction at the Isle of Man? Or the one he says he doesn't lie about when it comes to the refraction he always says is applied to the horizon when he's claimed it blocked the Isle of Man? Because he's a liar.
Oh, I know he's a liar, but that's why. But I would like to have, because all of his diagrams has to show at least 7/6R, and even more than 7/6R. So we'd have a field day tearing his diagrams apart and his claims apart. Field day.
Probably why I never presented it.
Because everyone wants to see him tore apart.
Probably why I never presented it.
Oh, I have no doubt it's why he never presented it.
He'd just have to lie more than he already has had to do and been caught out doing. So Rumpus is a proven liar. That's what you got to do. You've got to be a liar to lie about the globe, because that's essentially what you're doing when you decide to try and claim that you've got a globe Earth surface and a physical horizon that's a hill in the way. Like on this screen here. Location of the geometric horizon was what was blocking the Isle of Man. But then when it's oil rigs with the horizon behind, suddenly it's not a geometric limitation with the geometry required to do Earth claims. Suddenly it's a bent line that doesn't give you geometry, that you can't derive an R value from, that you can't get a physical horizon to give you R, to give you refraction, to claim it's bent. That's what the black swan does. It leaves you all in the terrible position where you've suddenly got to lie about your very essence of your claim, which is that the horizon's Earth curve. On screen right now, black swan. If the horizon was Earth curve, it'd be blocking these here oil rigs. It's not. You don't have hills move beyond the thing they're supposed to block. If Earth's got a hill in the way, it's in the way. It isn't.
Can I address that bit with, Neil mentioned it earlier, and sometimes we can skip over the funny, but it's probably more impactful to them. Even if I grant them 7/6R, and I take the black swan image, I give them 7/6R, that gives them an R value of 4 and a bit thousand instead of 3959. When we look at the black swan image and we take their positive assertion that the horizon is Earth curve, they have to come to the devastating conclusion that if that is the case, their new R value is 250,000 miles. That is the devastating blow, and what that image in the black swan does. You are going to reify it, and they have. They've doubled down on it, and that's the consequence. You can have 7/6R, but realistically, you're closer to Ruth's infinite R, aren't you, to bending into a flat plane? Because it's the only thing that's going to get you anywhere near that required R value if you're going to reify the horizon as a leading edge of a ball.
How would they then...
in the modus...
No, go ahead, John. Go ahead. Well, I'll just shout out Unistox Femi. He says, you want to prove a globe? Don't show anything physical. Thanks for the super chat. Go ahead, John.
In the modus tollens, right, it says if the Earth is a sphere of a certain radius, right?
Yeah, if Earth's a sphere, radius 3959.
Well, if Earth was a sphere of radius 3959, we wouldn't be able to measure elevation angles to assert the Earth is a sphere of radius 3959.
That's correct.
That's right. Or as I like to say, if the Earth was actually a globe, then the globe model would have not been able to be constructed the way it is. It only works because the Earth is flat.
On that last chat with the chess, right? If you were playing that chess game with like the flat Earth, and you went checkmate, you go no, that queen's not actually in that position. It's refracted and it's on a different square.
Maybe.
Like, I don't ever expect them to concede, and especially when you debate them. It's just for the people watching, because they're never, ever, ever going to accept that they're wrong, ever.
But it's not that they're wrong. It's that they've been fooled.
Them to know that they're conceding, because they are conceding. They
Absolutely.
just don't know they are.
They are. They're right. Half the time when they're conceding, like back in 2020, when they started saying refraction, that's their concession. So not Earth curve blocking the Isle of Man. Then that was their concession. They just didn't realise they're too dumb. But that aside, they are never going to concede because they don't want to admit to being duped. That's all it is. Pride.
I just want to state that the 7/6R radius is 4,618.83 miles. That's the radius with 7/6R. So the normal radius is 3,959 miles, or just under that, and the 7/6R radius, as a basic, is 4,618.83 miles.
But to have the black swan on screen now, the radius would measure 120-something thousand miles.
250,000, the distance.
Oh, is it more? Oh, yeah, it's beyond the moon, isn't it?
The globe.
That's right, it's about 250,000 miles. So rather than 3,959 or just over 4,000, we're talking 250,000 mile radius. To have this image on screen makes sense.
Yeah, it's still a black swan. That's what I'm saying. Even if, because you would still expect the hill in the way at somewhere around 1.82 miles, wouldn't you? But we're at 10 plus, aren't we? And we're being generous there, aren't we? So to give us the 250,000 mile R value, it's still a black swan. Even if you, like I said, even if you allow them to beg 7/6, you can have it. For me, it's getting you nowhere near. Still, is it? Absolutely nowhere near. Still destroys the R.
Is there any scientific evidence of gravity?
What's the naturally occurring phenomenon?
There isn't one. It occurs in pseudo-Riemannian 4 space-time, as I described earlier, with the bending geodesics of space-time as a result of the uneven distribution of mass caused by the Big Bang. It's just a fairy tale. There is no physical evidence for gravity. It's just a concept.
Do we have a refracted time now?
No, a geodesic bent in a fourth-dimensional space-time.
Bending, space-time, refraction, bending. So are they saying, in another sense, bending is refraction?
I
don't
bet
know.
they're going to hop to an ether. They're going to make ether the next gravity. From Newtonian to pseudo-Riemannian to ether.
Paul speculated that would happen, and it did. I just can't remember to credit who it occurred with, but when it happened, Paul was in the wings to take the credit and say, no, I said they'd do that. I said that they'd use geodesics in space-time as refraction at some stage, and he was right. They did. And we laughed. Oh, how we laughed. Like we'll laugh when they start claiming light's coming in parallel. To explain how they take the angle from the centre of a sphere Earth off a flat plane, because it matches the celestial sphere model. And why? Well, light's coming in parallel. Oh, right. No 7/6R then. Straight lines of light. Gotcha. So no refraction, ever. Always no Atmo day. It's just such a cluster screw of a mess is the globe at the moment. In 2022, what a mess.
It's just like politics. They have giant piles of paper that say very little, and nobody wants to read it.
It sounds about right.
Just rely on it.
Yeah, but we have, haven't we? We've gone through those boxes that Mark Sargent described.
Yep.
He had a metaphor day one of flat Earth. You get to the globe and it's a massive empty warehouse. Not an empty warehouse, a massive warehouse with papers in boxes stacked to the roof It's huge. And you go, oh my God, that's a lot of information. What's this door say? Globe evidence? My God, I've got to pour through all of this. Okay, let's get to it. So you pull the first box off the shelf, open it, and there's nothing in it. So you put it back and go to the next box. And you pull it down and you open it, and there's nothing in that. There's just a massive warehouse full of empty boxes. None of them have got anything in them. Analogous to, well, where is the physical horizon called Earth curve? Well, nobody's claiming the horizon's Earth curve. Oh, right, this is an empty box then. So Earth curve, it says on this box. What's it say inside? Nobody's claiming Earth curve. All right, I'll put that back then. Nothing in it.
Yep.
The parallel sun rays, which don't exist, is key to celestial navigation on a spherical surface for the angles to correspond from the center of the plane of the equator to the tangent plane that they need on top, because they can't use the surface, because you can't get an elevation angle from a curved surface. So I'm telling you, the year of the sun is coming, because that one thing right there will destroy it all.
We're going to run out of time on this live show in case I don't do this plug that I also did in the pre-show, but I want to put out some feelers. If there's a Brit out there that needs a streaming computer, so if you're a flat earther or even an anti-flat earther that needs a streaming computer and you're just a fledgling streamer and you're just using your phone, for the last 6 or 7 years, this computer has served me nicely, but as the show has grown, I've expanded beyond the capabilities of the computer. So after its last repair and slight downgrade, it now is insufficient to run the show and will be replaced. Now, although it hasn't been started, there's a build in progress that was kindly paid for by one of the watchers of the show, along with contributions that will go back to him from GoFundMe. So people have also contributed to this computer. Those funds will go back to that person who's not made of money, but he still did put down the entirety of the money to get it in place and get it being built as we speak. Anyway, that means that once this is replaced, I will be giving it back to the computer shop that's kept it alive throughout the duration of the show and have him virginalize it. In other words, turn it back to Windows 10 with an empty hard drive and basically nothing on it. But that means that I've got, along with other redundant equipment, a Blue Yeti mic, a spare monitor, a spare keyboard that's a little tiny wireless thing, the computer itself, and a camera, a webcam, an old Logitech webcam. So that, in essence, is a complete system. Now, as much as 10th in the pre-show was like, well, wouldn't you prefer to have some redundancy? Well, no, I'd rather give it away to a fledgling streamer that has like Flatsoid, but just in Britain, that's doing it on their phone and could do with a suitable computer to actually do it on OBS and up their game a little bit. But for now, I obviously am using it. It's still here being used. And it won't be coming with a fantastic graphics card because I will be taking that out and putting it to a monitor that I've just purchased on credit. So that will go towards that. But aside from that, it will be virginalized and to the spec that I originally started with. So it'll have an SSD and a spinning hard drive and a copy of Windows and OBS, and basically that's it. So if you're streaming with a camera and having a show, even with guests, maybe, depending on what you use, it'll be capable of doing that. So for a new streamer, it'll be ideal and return to its original state. So I'm just putting the feelers out at this stage. If you know somebody who's in Britain and could do with a computer, maybe put them in touch with me. So Nathan Oakley 1980 at AOL.com is my email address. Just drop me a line and say, hey, I know this guy, or I am that guy. I need that computer. And just tell me who you are and why you need it. And if you turn out to just be some charlatan hoping to get a computer for free, I'll sniff you out pretty quickly. But the idea is to just give back in the same way someone's given me a computer. Rather than having redundancy, I'd rather spend a few quid, which I've already arranged to do, on it to get it back to a state where it's not got all my crap on it, basically, and with a nice new install of Windows. So it's essentially a new computer to somebody, as that's how a lot of new computers to somebody get sold to them, actually used. Anywho, I just want to put the feelers out. So if you know somebody or you are that person, just drop me a line and you may be getting a computer in a month or so when I get my new one, along with a mic, a camera, a keyboard, and a monitor. So there we go. We haven't covered all the housekeeping. We've got a couple of minutes left. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
If you're a heliocentrist in that field,
But all those fields are all within the conceptual medium that is based on presupposition, so it could never happen.
You were going to finish, John, if you were a heliocentrist in that field?
Then you would require a radius value that you required from a flat Earth to describe any phenomenon.
You're breaking up.
He said, if you were a heliocentrist, you'd require a R value that was acquired from a flat Earth to make any assertions. I think that was the last bit, or something like that.
Yeah, to describe any phenomenon that happens.
That's the rest. So any claim to be phenomena won't be a physically occurring phenomena if it's in the realm of heliocentrism. It will come with an R value as opposed to a phenomena to make the claimed assertion in heliocentrism, and that R value will have been derived from a flat plane in the first instance. That was the essence of his point.
I thought John came in much clearer.
You joking? Don't give me that crap right at the end of the live show. I had technical issues yesterday. Okay, any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
There's no way to test that. We have to be contained because there is gas pressure, so the only way to even attempt to test that is to at least use one container.
But if
there was no container, wouldn't the clouds be sucked up?
Yes, they'd go into the sky vacuum by way of a dispersion. Yes. Entropy would take hold, gas would fill the space. However, Arwin, if their claim was true, and we had a natural law violating sky vacuum above our heads, then their claim that there's an entropy violation to have an empty space to make the demonstration would be possible. It isn't because it defies natural law, but their claim defies natural law. Therefore, if their claim was true, they could demonstrate it.
Yeah, but they just settle for, but the second law of thermodynamics doesn't apply to the globe model. So.
Yeah, but the second law of thermodynamics is a natural law. It occurs in our reality. It's that is the nature that is nature, regardless of what happens in any copy model.
Not anymore.
Go on.
Not anymore. Because it doesn't apply to the globe model.
Well, you can say that natural law doesn't apply to anything you like. If it's not a natural, then who cares? It doesn't apply to He-Man either. You know, entropy's not taking place in Eternia.
Probably not.
He-Man is no longer identifying as he.
No, She-Ra's his sister. That's not a sex change. She-Ra was around while He-Man. I've seen them in the same room.
Right. So now he's they man, and that's okay with this globe.
They man.
Look, as a black transgender Jew, I'm finding all of this highly problematic. I've got to be honest.
Well, as a 10th man, I know they man when I see one.
Oh, better than She-Man and Hera.
Okay, well, on that very distasteful note, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another huge, massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button after the fact, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley once again. Stay tuned if you're watching on a Programming stream, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
I'm gonna stuff in chat.
Check.
I lowered the latency, so obviously I've introduced the two different rooms to each other just slightly quicker than I normally do, and that's caused slight confusion amongst the panel members. Everyone stop
No, we're
talking.
not
You're all
confused.
polite.
Nah. I know
No, I
what
was
that
just
was.
saying that everything in chat is a joke when you read it while your shows are going on, even when you replay them. I mean, it's over. It's been over. It's boring now.
It's not boring. I mean, that's not a good advertisement for the show.
No, not the.
Nathan, you need to get rid of this guy.
Hold on, not the information. I mean, as far as them contending it, it's boring.
Well,
I know, I'm only joking.
They only went down 8 miles. Give them a chance to bore some more.
Everybody thinks that was a huge hole. It's a very small hole, right?
It's only a foot in diameter. Yeah.
Okay, can we knock the puns off? You know the drill.
I think I know what Neil's saying.
Good one.
You know the drill. Nice
bit there. Go on, John.
That was even better, Ted.
Go on, John.
Look, Chuck, knock this off, okay?
That's circular reasoning, Nathan. Come on, John. Refractive, tell me.
Let's get to the center of the problem. Yeah, look, the center comes from. Refractive curvature was trying to say something there, but I don't know what's happening. Is he going to say something? It's hard to know what his connection. I'll go anyway.
Yeah. Look, you gave him half a second. You didn't even give him a chance to get off mute.
Second up, go, Brian.
No, Brian's right, because he would add all this time to hear him if he could hear him. He's roboting. He's got
okay.
Yeah, they never, like the center of the globe thing comes from the radius plane, and that comes from flat earth elevation and horizontal elevation angles to Polaris. You know what I mean? That's where the center comes from. The claim of a center always comes. Now, that seems to be self-evident, but people forget that when they think about the claim that they only drill down 8 miles. Like, that really has no bearing on their radius at all, because they don't, like, the claim wasn't even that they drilled down to find the center in the first place. It was that Alberuni measured.
Go ahead, Brian. I'm just going to say go ahead.
Hear you, John. You're
That's a slight delay in his reaction. Just a slight delay.
That was great.
Wait, is John on the moon right now? What's going on?
He timed that beautifully.
I thought Brian had a good pun. It had no bearing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing about this is that where did their claim of this center of their globe come from? It didn't come from someone claiming to go to the center of something. It came from the claim that there was a radius value that was measured, not just a calculation. But there's only a calculation, a back calculation.
It's not a measurement. Bosh, just like that.
Go on, Nathan. Yeah. It's not a measurement.
Well, if their mathematics is correct, it's a radius of 3959, and the Earth curvature would start at 1.22 miles at a 1 foot observer height. If their mathematics were correct, why would they need to be drilling down for it?
No, no. If their mathematics were correct, the radius would be 4,618.83 miles, because it's a refracted radius that they're working with.
I was doing the non-refracted version and allowing you to come in with the refracted version. They have 2 problems now on top of the first one, which it doesn't exist. So you got 3 problems: a refracted problem, a non-refracted problem, and doesn't exist in the first place.
Can I just, sorry to interrupt and break the flow up, I'm really sorry. I just need to make a mental note to myself what I've changed in the show, just to overcome the lack of memory on this computer. So I've changed all of, nobody needs to listen to this. This is actually literally for me only in the audience. Sorry. I've changed every single channel from 24-bit 48 kilohertz to 16-bit 48 kilohertz and reduced the latency and memory buffers on KS and MME before the show started. So if everything goes wrong or if there's an issue, that's what I need to change back Nathan in the future. Thank you.
Wow, you had to bring in 16 and 24 bits while we're drilling. Very nice.
No, this was done before the show.
I know. Come on, roll with me. Nathan, I got some slides of Master B for the after show if you got nothing going on.
Yeah, if you like.
It's a Chocolate's posting of the two recordings.
Does it start with definitions?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
All right, so I underlined the part that we've all been talking about, and refracted curvature always brings to mind when he brings this up. Visible horizon, the limit of the observer's view is called the visible horizon or apparent horizon. The angle between the visible and the sensible horizons is called the dip of the horizon. Now, we all know what dip is. Dip is your height of eye above sea level. So the angle between the visible and sensible horizon is called dip horizon, the angle between two lines. Is that pretty clear to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Rational horizon. Rational horizon is shown by a plane through the center of the Earth, drawn parallel to the visible horizon and the cutting the sky. Huh.
These are John's parallel lines that he succinctly described over the last week or so. When you're doing dip correction, it's between two parallel planes. These are those parallel planes.
Yeah, but it gets a little foggy here, if I may. Look at number 10, horizon. We have the sensible horizon, the rational horizon, and the apparent or visible horizon. Which one is the mariner at sea using the horizon mirror on?
Well, the first thing I'd note from Brian's comments earlier on this show was that none of them will give them any values off a globe map.
Correct. But knowing the trick here, the visible horizon, where the land seems to meet the air and sea, is what you're pointing and what you bring your elevation angle when the star is there all the way to the star. So
correct, but I just want to tie that back to Brian's point because it was a heavy focus in the live show, which is to say that they haven't got in that list a geometric horizon, but their values, 1 degree for every 60, is going to require them to have a geometric horizon to do any of this, and it's not even listed.
Correct. Sensible horizon, number 11. The sensible horizon is shown by a plane touching the Earth at the spectator's feet and then extended to the celestial concave. Well, rational horizon, we read it, let's read it again, is shown by a plane through the center of the Earth drawn parallel to the visible horizon and the cutting sky. Now, in all the other ones, it says the rational horizon is parallel to the sensible horizon. But in this one, they're saying the sea surface is parallel, if you notice what I'm saying. Now, visible horizon number 13, the apparent or visible horizon is where the sky and Earth appear to meet, forming a circle around the spectator, of which the spectator is the center. Next slide. Well, here we go. The sensible horizon, on all sides of us, we see a circle of land or sea, or both, on which the sky seems to rest. This is called the sensible horizon. Well, that's very interesting. If we observe it from a little boat on the sea or from a plane, this circle is small, but if we look out from the top of a ship's mast or from a hill, we find greatly enlarged, in fact. The higher we go, the more the horizon extended, always, however, retaining its circular form. Okay, so a 360 view, but it said the higher you go, it's extended. Why didn't it say it was curving away like the picture shows? Now, the sphere is the only figure which looked at from any external point is bounded by a circle, really. And the horizons of all places are circular, and the Earth is a sphere or nearly so. So a circle of equal altitude on the plane wouldn't work according to that last comment, which is ridiculous. Next slide.
This is all right.
Oh,
Sorry,
go on.
I was going,
No, go on.
I want to say something about that. No, the wording in that is incorrect. And I don't know why it's so incorrect, but it is why the person who wrote it that way, if they didn't have ulterior motives, but it's incorrect. No, the horizon is always a horizontal, but your peripheral view gives you the impression that there is a curve around you. It's nothing to do with the horizon. The horizon is not a circle around you. That's your view. Your peripheral view gives you that. That's your own eyes. Come on, Chocolate.
I was kind of thinking the same thing when 10th Man said that. Like, wait a minute, that's not what's going on. And you are the one that turns around and it looks like that, but that's not what it looks like. It's just horizontal.
Yeah, it's just your field. It's just your field of view as far as you can see. If you're in the middle of the ocean with no landmarks, that's what it looks like. All right, next slide. Horological Journal, August 1918. The visible horizon is the horizon as it appears to the observer. If he were floating in the sea with his eyes on sea level, then the visible horizon would be his sensible horizon. Bye-bye globe. Right there kills it, doesn't that?
Yeah, they've even described it a couple of sentences earlier as described as the plane that runs through the center of the sphere Earth, right?
Well, the rational horizon is the equatorial plane, and it's parallel to the visible horizon, which here it says is the same as the sensible horizon if your eyeball was on the sea. So 3 lines all parallel.
Yeah, they're so screwed. This is just admiring the argument. This is a great argument. It's great that we've finally got a silver bullet. When people say, well, what's your proof of flat Earth? Well, this is it. That's how it's navigated. That's how it's measured. That's how the globe was derived. It's just a great argument. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I can't remember. What I was going to say is about the whole dip thing. They are going on and on and on about dip, this dip to the horizon, blah, blah, blah. Right? And all these different horizons, the sensible horizon, the rational horizon, they can show you a photograph of only one horizon, and that is that. There isn't all these different horizons. They don't exist. They're all made-up globe belief nonsense. Exactly as John said, right, as was detailed by in the past by other people as well, but John said it on the show, all it is a dip between 2 parallel lines, 2 parallel horizontals. Your eye line and the water line. That's the dip. You know, the angle down is the dip. The correction for the dip is height of eye correction, which brings the angle from your eye line, the vertex of the angle from your eye line down to the water line underneath the boat. That's what it is. The dip correction, the dip itself, the dip angle is from your eye line's horizontal down to the horizontal of the ocean underneath you. That's all it is. 2 parallel horizontals. That's a dip. Look at what a depression angle is. That's what it is. This nonsense to go on with, that it's a dip down to a geometric. How could you be a dip down to a geometric horizon when everything is refracted at 7/6R in your model? It's just unbelievable nonsense out of it. You know, and there are 50 different horizons. There's only one horizon. There's one. Show me a photograph of any other horizon with the horizon that we see.
Right, I'm still calling it a visible horizon. Like, that's so redundant. Like, a horizon is visible. If it's not, then it's not a horizon.
I'm still on the biological journal or the
horological. Yeah,
horological.
Can you go back to two slides? The one that's called
with the mountain. I got it.
No, the one before the mountain. It says definitions on top with number 10 horizon.
Yep.
Okay, I want you now listen to what Brian just said and listen to what we can show from their other books and the confusion. And let's read number 11. The sensible horizon is shown by a plane touching the earth at the spectator's feet and then extended as a disk to the celestial concave to match the equatorial disk that's extended and called the celestial equator to the celestial concave. Look what it says. sensible horizon, spectator's feet. All the pictures show it at his eye line. Why is here the feet?
Did you want the last slide to be put up? The one with the diagram of the...
Yes.
What did we call this? I forget what we called. Globeburger?
Goldberg. All right, the horizon system of coordinates showing measurement of altitude, zenith distance, azimuth, and azimuth angle. So there's the celestial equator, and that's the celestial sphere, the big circle that we're looking at. Where the vertex of the angle is, that's the center of Earth, according to them, which is a disk, equatorial plane. So shrink this gray circle just to be the size of their globe Earth, and then extend it, like shown here, all the way to the celestial sphere. That's what they're talking about, extending. Now, here you're on top, where the horizon is touching that smaller circle, because it's not a great circle, and it's not going through the center of the Earth, as all longitude great circles would, but only one latitude great circle goes through the center, and that's the plane we live on. So they use that. And then you got this little small circle. And Brian's argument, which is great, is that arc, if you live on the globe, is the distance you have to travel, but that would be longer than the straight path on that small circle because it's a disk here. So you got lots of problems, but they use these kinds of imagery to fool people. Now, if you go 2 slides over to the next 2 slides over, where it says definitions again.
Yeah.
Okay, horizon, the line of the blending of the sea and sky. Okay, I can live with that. Celestial horizon, the great circle in which the planes of the rational and sensible horizons cut a celestial sphere. Dip of the horizon, the angle between the visible and sensible horizons. What Earth curve? It's the difference between 2 tangent lines, planes. There's no Earth curve here. Rational horizon, an imaginary circle, the plane of which passes through the Earth's center, the poles being the zenith and nadir, and divides the globe into 2 equal parts, parallel with the sensible horizon. So you mean to tell me when you cut this ball in half, you have a tangent plane to get an angle, an elevation angle from. And then you can't do it from a curved surface, so you got to draw a tangent plane on your curved ball to match the rational horizon. Whew. Visible horizon below. The limit of the observer's view is called the visible horizon or apparent horizon. The angle between the visible and the sensible horizons is called what? Drum roll. Dip.
Did you want me to drum roll?
Well, that's the height of eye, but they call it dip because it's a depression angle correction. It's the same thing Alberuni on top of the mountain. He measured flat surface to get the height of the mountain. He goes on the top of the mountain. He's higher. He sees he has to have a reference plane to get his dip angle, and that would be his sensible. But then he has to correct between the first one he got, and that's between the visible and the sensible, is height of eye only. 2 straight lines. Next slide. So here's the sun, here's the height of eye, and parallel to actual horizon. What's the actual horizon? The dotted line. What's that? That's the visible horizon. That's sea level. The difference between those is the height of eye correction. That other thing that comes down to the geometric horizon, that doesn't exist. The clue is here. If height of eye is 0 minutes, 0 seconds, the dotted line. That's what you live on.
Yeah, the biggest giveaway is where it says actual horizon with a dotted line moving away from Dingleberry Earth.
Crazy, ain't it?
It's on Mick West's diagram. It's in all the curve maths. That's West. It was called surface level.
Yeah. Next slide will show you why. Okay, here's the sun. Here's an altitude angle. What's that dotted line? The baseline. Flat Earth all the way, right? Got to have it. And that extends all the way to the celestial sphere, the imaginary celestial sphere. Okay, next slide. Here it is. Another disk, elevation angle, azimuth angle for bearing and direction, so you know which way to steer your ship. Elevation angle looks like it's got a baseline that's straight. Doesn't look like it's curving. That's it. And then flat, so I put up the next slide, but isn't it fun?
Yeah. With great understanding comes great ridicule. Good presentation. Thanks, Ted.
Well, you're welcome. I enjoy doing it. Enjoy sharing the findings. People will be awake. They'll see it. People who want to stay trolls, they'll find a way to argue around it. But this is from their own books. Now, there's no flat Earth navigation book as of yet. But the book they have is a flat Earth navigation book because they use a flat plane to do it on. So you just have to...
Right. The flat Earth is just implied. It's not an item. There's no competition in order for the necessity to imply it. It's just how it works.
It's funny because sometimes they imply it, and then sometimes they just straight tell you, we actually assume the Earth to be flat, non-rotating, before we do anything on it. It's great. Why would you ever need to do such a thing if it was literally the exact opposite of that thing? For simplicity, that's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Whenever Globers say, "Oh yeah, well we just assume it's flat because it's less complicated than assuming it's a globe," that's ridiculous.
It is.
You don't assume something is the opposite of what it is to make it simpler.
The coded.
They gotta reinforce the considerations,
Yeah, the coded message in that, Chocolate, is the ancients didn't really know the shape of the Earth, but the way they navigated a flat Earth works. So we're going to use that.
I think that the description shape of Earth is already a false dichotomy that induces a shape, right? Which is very much in favor of, ball thinking, because a ball is a shape, flat is not a shape. So I think that's already a trick on their side that they had a headway with.
Exactly, Aaron. That's exactly where I was going. It's like them saying the ancients didn't know the shape of the Earth. No, they didn't proclaim the Earth to have a spherical shape because it doesn't have. That's the truth, isn't it?
Exactly.
They didn't beg the question.
It was born from the math thinking.
And then what do they tell the kids today? Oh, you look out your window, you will never see anything that looks round like a sphere. Everything looks flat. But 2,000 years ago, the Greeks invented globes based on observation. The same thing you just said we would never use to see the spherical nature of the Earth that you just claimed that it is. It's great. This is a clusterfuck, man, I'll tell you.
But it was always a clusterfuck. The clusterfuck is the natural foundation that can keep the cognitive dissonance going, right? It's their feed. It's their soma.
Yeah, but my son does the reverse thing. He says that they were being put in jail for saying that Earth was a sphere. Am I right? Copernicus, or I might be getting them mixed up, but that's what he was telling me.
We don't know how true any of that nonsense is, because the whole heliocentric model is really only 100 years old. The claims about the globe go way back past that. But we know there's people who were taught that Earth was flat, who are 100 years old now, when they were in school. So we don't know if any of that history is true, but who cares?
Right.
Because they should have been put in jail. They're lawyers.
The story is Galileo Galilei.
Galileo, that's the one.
The story is Galileo Galilei was threatened. Now, what was he threatened for? Some of the stories say had nothing to do with his statements about the Earth. They had to do because he was making statements against the Pope at that time. So, which story are you going to believe?
Well, that's rubbish straight away, because if you look into it, he's claimed they didn't claim, but they try and put the origins of the telescope onto him, even though he didn't actually invent it. And he, if you look into that story, he is in great favor with the hierarchy of the time. So how could this guy be in trouble with the hierarchy that supposedly all think he's great?
Well, it's funny the way they use it. Like, oh, these people were put in jail for saying the Earth was a sphere to later on agree with it. So it's like,
no, it was a controlled opposition, man. I mean,
right.
he was told to do that, but he was gonna get shamed, so they already controlled the backlash, basically, and made it look like, oh, yeah, we're so totally on your side. We're persecuting him, see? He's not our agent at all. He didn't really get any serious punishment. It was their agent. It was their guy. Just doing what he was told.
Living like a king.
Not for nothing though. I could see the first people that were running around claiming we lived on a ball, and people just basically accepted reality. I could see some of them getting thrown in jail or in the loony bin or something, because that's crazy, right? Everybody knows it's flat and stationary, and you're gonna run around and say it's actually a ball that's spinning
We have
in a vacuum.
Chocolate. Remember seeing the newspaper article in the 1920s where they were teaching in American schoolrooms the Earth was flat? In the 1920s.
Yes, sir. Then in 1936, you had August Picard go up in his little balloon thing and say, "Yeah, seems like a flat disc with an upturned edge." Okay.
Well, look, even
So
when you
Chocolate, they should have been
on.
put in a mental institution instead of jail, right?
Right. But
Yeah, I
just
did say
look at-
loony bin too.
Yeah, but that would be a no-brainer.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, Arwen.
Sorry, I wasn't sure. If my mic sometimes cut out and then I don't notice for like 5 minutes while trying to say things out loud. So, but I was saying, just look back at the old newspapers, like 19th century, and they were there, right? Look at them. Like the way things were written, people were just like the writers were open-minded and they were very much defensive in stance, right, against any globe assertions. Even back then, they would I haven't seen any like, oh yeah, the globe, this is definitely it. No, when you see an article like that, it's like futurism. They're presenting something that is blatantly science fiction, and they're just staying in character. They're not like, yeah, this is the reality, you better buy it, blah blah. No. They're just presenting it as science fiction because just the general writers of that age, they knew what was going on. They knew Earth is flat. It's just not something that was really addressed on the front lines or anything, but you could just tell. Haven't you noticed? Like reading old newspapers. 19th century. It's just such a different mindset, right? The real programming, that forcing the globe, that came much later, I think. I really think that came like mid-20th century with this capstone, the period of, I'd say like starting with the project of the atom bomb, probably. And then the capstone would be the moon landing. That's when they really started like introducing that pushing around with the globe belief, right?
Yeah, I don't think that this narrative would be where it is without the fanfare that NASA brought it. Especially
it's a social engineering operation. It's a social engineering operation. They introduced the globe belief and the pushiness and the oh, I am better than you because I understand this all kind of way of thinking. They created that. They made that. They showed how to do that. And they taught kids to do that. And now that's a thing in this age. Now it's a culture.
Well, when they found means to get higher in the sky via rockets, then they realized, just like I showed earlier in their books, that all you do is extending their surface the higher you go. And the apparent horizon seems to rise to eye level. It just seems to do that. So it's like you don't see any more stars than you do on the ground the higher you go. So it's like, huh, we finally got high enough and we still can't see Earth curve. What are we going to do?
I wish Quantum Eraser was here. I'd like to tell him about the airplane argument that he doesn't know about. So if he's listening in, he should come in.
Well, it's pretty plain to see, right?
I'm just placing the entire globe Earth cosmology and all the dramatic effects it has into a category of like pinnacle social projects that were there to convince you of things existing that could be used by those in the know that it isn't, to control the believing public. And that would be the ball Earth, atom bombs, wide implications. And
they're
that's
doing
a
it
fair
now
point.
with other things, Arwen, which we are not talking about, nor should we.
Oh, right. I was going to say the medical beliefs,
Well,
but I wasn't
that's
going to be specific, just
I got
the
you.
branch and the tricks that they've pulled over the ages.
Well, I'm glad you kept it to a branch and twigged it a bit, so it's okay.
I know. I do my best to keep this flat Earth debate.
You should have just left it in the trunk, though.
He twigged it and he left it in the trunk. That man is rolling.
What?
Don't bark at him.
Oh, this is
Neil,
tree.
Neil, you're acting like a real sap right now.
I just like to say that my icon is a tree.
Agreed.
Make like a tree and get out of here.
Yo, that used to
The
drive
thing
me
about
crazy.
the thing about
Chocolate.
trees is that they don't actually leave.
You know, tree is the only word that actually has a root word.
All right.
I'm taking it. Why are they doing this shit? See how fast it goes down?
You're off mute, Neil.
Sorry.
Anybody
You're
in
still off
Discord?
mute.
Anybody in Discord believe we live on a magical spinning water ball flying around in a vacuum? Care to tell us about it? Just wondering.
When you say magic, is that because it's got the magic speed, Chocolate?
That's one of the reasons, yeah. Because somehow this rock is supposedly flying around in a vacuum with oceans, bodies of water sticking to the outside of it, with air sticking outside of that. That seems pretty magical.
Who said that? Neil deGrasse, right?
Yeah, he
What?
was talking about the craters on the moon not having any angles to them. And he says, well,
Yeah.
you see, there's this magic speed. When they come in on an angle, they leave an imprint like they came straight down like a zenith.
And I bet he had people in awe of him, right? Wow.
That Chuck guy he always talks to on Star Talk. He was like, wow.
Well, that's Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson's skit right there.
Pretty much, yep. That's what I think about when I hear that crap.
Well,
Do you think off the air the guy says, yo, that's a bunch of baloney. Who the hell is going to believe that?
well, what if in the future they claim it's a magic speed that makes the air stick to the ball?
They're probably doing it already.
What about magic
How?
speed in there?
How would it do that?
You're going to need a radio value.
9.8 meters per second speed, possibly.
Squared. Per second.
Yeah,
I see what you're
squared.
saying.
Yeah, but that's describing some disc moving upwards, not a ball.
Not a ball moving around a giant gas ball in a vacuum at 66,600 miles per hour. That's
why you. That's why you bend space time.
Can I just point something out? Something I've said a couple of times in the past.
Sure.
The astronauts in the 1969 up to 72, whatever it was, and all the other supposed space footage after that, they all displayed a force of gravity, right? All the effects were based around a force of gravity. But 54 years prior to 1969, Albert Einstein threw all that out the window and was agreed with by all the other, let's just say, pseudoscientists of his time. So what happened to bending space-time? The gravity only being an effect. What happened to that effect being the curvature of space-time?
Are you saying this is doublespeak?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I've said it before on the show. It was a good while back. I said, if you believe that Albert Einstein's general relativity is real, you're basically stating that the moon landings are fake. If you believe that they're real, then you're stating that general relativity is wrong, because they don't tie together. The effects during the moon landing that we see are meant to look like a force of gravity. All this 1/6 your weight stuff. There's no weight involved in Einstein's relativity. There is no attraction between two masses. There's none of that in Einstein's relativity. But there is within all their space footage from 1969 on, all involves a force of gravity. The very thing that was thrown out the window by Einstein in 1915 and agreed upon by the rest of the pseudoscience community.
Yeah, that was the problem. The writers wanted that in the canon back then. You know, it didn't matter that, technically speaking, the narratives of the scientists of Einstein and such had moved on. That was part of canon, so they just incorporated it into the story. I'm sure there'll be a new moon landing canon in about 100 years if heliocentrism's still around in the prevalent worldview of the Western world.
Yeah, but the problem they had is that they couldn't show space-time. They could only show it for, like, if they wanted to fake it, which they did, they would have had to show a force of gravity, something that looked like the effects of a force of gravity, as opposed to bending space-time, which wouldn't show the astronauts having only 1/6 that are only walking around with only 1/6 of their weight. There wouldn't be any of that. That doesn't exist in Einstein's relativity.
Right.
There's none of that.
They had to include it in the story, and it was still taught to schools then, to kids in schools then, and it is now, right? That's why it's all part of the story.
To teach it.
Yeah, it has to be. It's part of the story.
Well, they have to, because they're showing kids people bouncing around in ISS and all these, and they're showing footage since 1969 of all these people being in 1/6 gravity. They have to show they have to teach that gravity is a force to people until they get to university level, and then they start teaching about general relativity. But at that point, it's already been ingrained that the moon landing and what you see in the moon landing is also gravity, when it isn't. That was thrown out in 1915 by Albert Einstein.
Wait, people landed on the moon in 69?
No.
Quote from the guy from NASA, 2014. We need to solve these problems before we send people to this region of space. How did that happen in 69 when we hadn't solved these problems yet?
But they want us to argue about how they travelled through the Van Allen belts, because then we're begging the question that there's a sky vacuum that can traverse. We're just arguing about how they traversed it. Oh, well, they didn't know. Maybe they did have radiation poisoning, and we just didn't know. Maybe that's why Buzz is a bit nuts. You know, they could give you any answer, so long as the question has been begged, and we're all assuming that the sky vacuum's real when it violates natural law, so they can have a journey in it. The space race was a lie and the space race took place in a sky vacuum that doesn't exist. It could have been called Narnia race.
I think it's a little bit more of a confession. Chocolate, read that quote again from 2014.
I didn't read it. I just know it. It's the guy from Orion, Trial by Fire.
Yeah.
That NASA's program to solve the problems of the Van Allen belt.
Yeah.
His quote is, "We need to solve these problems before we can send people to this region of space."
Yeah. So that's why. Yeah, that's why Chili Peppers had that title, because they never did. It was filmed in the Hollywood basement.
Yes.
I thought you needed a tinfoil and gaffer tape was sufficient to protect you from Van Allen belts.
Depends who you're talking to. That technology's been lost, though. I mean, it's really difficult to rebuild it.
Yeah, it depends on who you're talking to and when you talk to them.
Now, they just forgot about the excuses that were said at the time as to why that would work. So they don't remember enough to hold up the bluff anymore.
Can I tell you guys something that's mildly interesting to me, probably deeply boring to you, that I figured out yesterday? So I'm not going to wait for a reply. That was rhetorical. So for the last, I don't know, couple of weeks, I've been feeling this strong force. This isn't a joke. Very powerful force that's audible. It's a deep, bassy force. You can feel it. Now, I showed my wife, and I'm like, this is driving me nuts. Where the hell is this sound coming from? Is it one of the fans we're using because it's very hot? Is it the fridge? Is it one of my amplifiers? What the hell is making this noise? So I'm trying to track down this noise. Can't figure it out. Finally dawned on me. Right, so it's been hot. It's been the hottest recorded summer here ever. So it's blisteringly hot. And what's happening in this apartment, which is 3 stories high, so there's 3 people. I'm in the middle. There's one above me and one below me. And we've all got identical layouts. So we've all got our fridge in the same position. Yeah? And when your fridge clicks on, typically, which will be at random points for each of us 3 tenants, right? At some point in the day, your fridge might click on. Now, when it's hot, at some stage, if it gets hot enough, all 3 fridges above and below are all on at once. And if you stick your ear next to one of them, you can hear them buzzing at mains frequency, which here is AC 240. It's about 60 hertz. I measured it at 63, but that doesn't matter. So 63 hertz from compressors and whatever the hell else is going on in a fridge, going all at once, made a standing wave that was so big that you could stand in only in one position in the room, because it's a standing wave. I won't explain what that means. But an eigentone, right? You stand in this one spot in the room, and the whole room is physically shaking. It's just absolutely nuts from fridges in a hot summer's day.
Oscillation. That's like oscillation.
Just buzzing.
If
Just all of them buzzing.
Resonate at a certain frequency, and the building is exactly. It's going to resonate. Well, if they're all turned on constantly, yeah, it's going to.
You're right. You're absolutely right. The eigentone's built up in one dimension. That's right. It's built up in one dimension. So 63 hertz. You can calculate the feet and figure out that it fits twice in the height of this building, right? And I'm right in the middle of it. So I'm in the middle of this massive eigentone at 63 hertz with all these fridges going. I'm like, can you feel that? My wife's like, yeah, I can. Yeah, it's nice. I'm like, it's nice. The bloody building's shaking.
It's like your house is built inside of a bell.
Just a sympathetic frequency that happens to the likelihood of 3 fridges all producing 63 hertz at exactly the same time with just a coincidentally sympathetic size for that frequency to bounce back and forth between the roof and the floor through the building. It's just nuts. Anyway, it's not doing it now.
They amplified each other by accident.
Sorry?
They amplified each other, probably, the sound.
Yeah, well, the building did. It's a standing wave, so that all of them are producing the same frequency, but then they all sit on top of each other in the room and bounce back and forth. And because they're sitting in between the walls, they sit on top of each other, the waves, and that amplifies them. It gives 2x. Now, if you've got 3 of them, 3 fridges, it's like having 3 speakers all at the correct frequency to bounce in between the walls. So you're getting a 3x effect. So you're getting about, I don't know, I think it doubles and then it would quadruple the amplitude. So you're suddenly getting, it might be 2 or 3 dB if you put your ear next to the fridge on top of whatever general noise level. And then, you get a couple of them and it might be maybe 7 or 8 dB. So you can really notice it. But then you put another one and it's suddenly 20 dB louder. You're like, bloody hell. It's like shaking the whole building. Anyway, I just thought I'd note that because I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, interesting. You could do something about that. You could try to just go to the other.
You just move.
The other.
You just move.
Yeah, have them move. Have them move at least slightly. See if that breaks the amplifying effect.
No, it does. You just move 2 feet, so it's in a particular point in the room, right in the middle. But you can move. So that's what you do if you're setting up a studio and you've got a particular troublesome eigentone, i.e., in any building there will be waves that sit between that particular frequency between the walls dimensions. That's just how it is in any room, unless you get massive. But in any normal room, but you just move. So you move a couple of feet back, and then suddenly you're not sat in that spot where that tone's building up. But in this particular lounge, like I say, if you stood in one particular spot, you could feel 63 hertz. Like at a rock concert when someone's playing a really deep bass note and you feel your trousers shaking. That's what it was doing in this building.
Right, but at specific spots, resonation.
Yeah, a couple of feet in front of the sofa.
Annoying? When that gets really annoying? When it's because of a piece of equipment that's way outside, hundreds of meters away, and that just happened to have this resonance that just bounces exactly with how your room is. That happens to me sometimes. I am annoyed sometimes by the sound that just comes resonating in because of a factory that's half a mile away. And every time they have their machine on, which is usually in the middle of the night, I can feel it. I can literally feel it right where I sleep.
This conversation really hurts.
Hurts, yeah.
Nathan, can you go?
I say it's buzzing.
It's buzzing. Riveting.
Buzzing.
We don't talk about sound with that much frequency.
Earth-shaking conversation.
Very good, very good.
That pun resonates with me.
Wonderful. Nathan, 2 slides of Master B.
Okay.
New Scientist. Remember this one? Let's read it. And then we're going to do a little test. Andrew Hill, Darwin Rules. Even the Spectator, we rarely find serious assertions that the sun goes around the earth. One can, of course, believe anything one likes as long as the consequences of the belief are trivial. But when survival depends on belief, then it matters that belief corresponds to manifest reality. We therefore teach navigators that the stars are fixed to a celestial sphere, which is centered on a fixed earth, and around which it rotates in accordance with the laws clearly deducible from common sense observation. The sun and the moon move across the inner surface of the sphere, and hence perforce go around the earth. This means that the students of navigation must unlearn a lot of the confused dogma they have learned in school. Most of them find this remarkably easy, because dogma is as may be, but the real world is as we perceive it to be. If Andrew Hill would look in the Journal of Navigation, he will find that the Earth-centered universe is alive and well, whatever his readings of The Spectator may suggest. Darcy Radioff, Royal Air Force College. Now, we were talking earlier about the 2 different gravities. This can interchange. The way that Darcy Radioff is saying what you were taught in school about Earth going around the sun, that's nonsense. So now we can just change this and make it gravity. Hey, what you were taught in school about gravity being a force, that's nonsense.
Did he say
bending of time space?
Stop. That is what they do. Adam will attest to this. They teach you about the laws of attraction and gravitation from Newtonian sources in name only. And then when you get to higher education, they go, oh yeah, that's all nonsense. Pseudo-Harmonian for space-time bending, geodesics.
Mine would be more in chemistry. Yeah, we'll teach you this. And then you go to A-level. That was not really right. It's very simplified. In fact, it's not circles they're traveling in. And then you go to the degree level, and again, no, it's not even just figure eights. It's all sorts of completely different way of conceptualizing it. Yeah.
You're talking about orbital motion, though, aren't you? When you're talking about subatomic and various other particles that are described, you're talking about their orbital motion and electrons flying around and all that kind of stuff that you're taught in school, aren't you?
Yeah. I think with a bit of flat Earth knowledge, I kind of... It's a disappointment when you go there because you think you've been lied to. It's only until you get to the point that you realise all of it is just a conceptualisation of the atom, that you can kind of accept that it doesn't really matter which conceptualisation you accept, none of them are reality.
So the point is that not just on gravity, but many, many, many other subjects, this is happening.
Yeah, but Adam's sort of trying to hint at the idea that as you go up the food chain, rather than going, I've been lied to, it's like, no, you didn't understand. There was a more advanced way of understanding. Here's the new model. Just like the old model, but different. Now you do understand, don't you? And then you go up the chain a little bit higher and they go, oh, well, that'll dust the old nonsense. Well, that's one way of conceptualising it, but that's a bit oversimplified. Here's a different way of conceptualising it. And Adam's saying, well, eventually you get to the point where you go, does it really matter how I describe it or conceptualise it? It's just a way of considering it. Does it matter if you conceptualise... Go on.
Yeah, it does, because of what Brian said.
I was getting to a further point. Just give me a second. Does it matter if you conceptualise the world as a celestial sphere model or a globe projection made from that model? Both are equal in terms of your way of conceptualising it. And if you want to say that it's more complex to apply the haversine formula to then use it off a sphere to convert it back to the plane at the centre of the sphere, then you can argue that that's far more complicated than necessary, and therefore the more superior model would just be the straight, flat, celestial sphere model. However, you still get to the same appreciation that it doesn't matter which model you use, neither are representative of the world. We don't live on a model. But what we do, in terms of the actual functionality of the world we do measure, that's flat. Can't be any other way. All the models have come from that flat measurement on a flat plane that we actually observe and experience. But the models themselves, what difference does it make if you're using a celestial sphere model? So long as you understand, as these globe believers are being taught or described in the New Scientist, right? They have to open their minds to a new way of the thinking about it as a flat plane. I mean, we still live on a sphere. Would that be the testament of the New Scientist? Yeah, we still live on a sphere, but we still understand the application of the flat Earth angles that are taken in our world that is spherical, because we have the higher understanding. Yeah? Because you're not being asked to assess whether or not this has validity in reality, just does it work with navigation? Is the Earth-centred model alive and well? Oh yes, that model is alive and well. And if you were to elevate yourself to a higher understanding, you'd reach the point where you realise, yeah, they're just models. And then maybe have a better or a more appreciation of the heliocentric model. And go, wow, what a glorious and whimsical, fantastic model that was. It spawned all sorts of great fantasy and was very useful in terms of a way of describing with great beauty how the stars could be perceived to be moving around us when we turn and our perception makes it look like they're moving when we are. I mean, that's an interesting way of looking at the world through a conceptual model. It's not the world we live in, and we all understand that, but we appreciate its beauty, and we appreciate the beauty of atomic models when they're describing things with conceptualizations merely used as a tool to understand. And the further you go up, the higher your understanding. And last time I compared it to Freemasonry, going, well, they know but just don't say it. Well, in this case, the people who are being described in this article, well, the inference is that they do know now how it's very different to what you're taught on a basic level. But no one's being taught to critically think about the two in connection. Just how does the new system work on a flat plane?
Yeah, but the second paragraph and third. Well, go on, Chocolate. I'll go after you.
I was just gonna say, like, going back to that, with gravity, like they don't even hide it that that's what they're doing, right? I just posted. I don't know if we ever spoke about it, but I just posted a video that I think it was Wired did, and how they have different levels of teaching what gravity is, right? They got child, teen, college student, grad student, till expert, right? And it's literally what we've been talking about. Like, you know, when you're a child, yeah, it's perfectly okay to call it a force, and yeah, it's great. And then it completely changes into the pseudo 4D crap once you get, like, the higher you go. Once you get to expert, that's what it is. It has to be. It's crazy. And they've got 5 people that they talk to.
God damn, I hate this computer. Just play. I give up, Chocolate. It's not working.
Reality.
That they're not feeling gravity. And that's not the case at all. They're absolutely feeling gravity. They're just cruising so fast that even though they're being pulled in, they never get pulled to the surface. It's like...
Pulled to the surface? Aren't they out in space? Can you guys hear that? Alright, looks like I'm having connection issues with the rest of the guys on the show. Oh, well, that's not a good sign. Yeah, this whirly whirl is definitely indicating that I'm having technical issues. So probably going to be my cue to round out this show. So with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!